Hey guys, Ryan here. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my top 5 favorite classes in Warzone right now. I'm going to include what I think is the best sniper support class, the best ghost class, and even the best class overall. I'm going to be even going into the statistics based on warzonerank.com, and I'm also going to be giving you the attachments I use along with the perks and tacticals. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, you don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe, but it really does help out the channel, especially because I'm a smaller channel. And I just want to say thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a good day. So to begin, in the number 1 spot, we're going to have the OTS and the EM2. Now, to hammer home why I think this is the best class in Warzone overall, I'm going to pull up these stats from warzonerank.com. They have the total pick rate of guns, and they have the KD ratios associated with people using these guns. So the OTS-9 is the 3rd most used gun, and it has a 1.40 KD. The EM2 is the 5th most used gun, and it has a 1.45 KD. The closest KD ratio of any other gun in the top 10 is a 1.1. So if you're at all confused about why those stats matter, it's essentially this. For those guns to have that big of a lead in terms of kill-death ratio while being that high in terms of pick ratio means that these guns just have to outright be better than their competitors. Guns like the Cold War AK, the XM4, they do compete. The Cold War AK has the 2nd highest KD of the ARs with the 1.1, and that's actually fantastic. That means it's a really great gun. That means it's performing way better than usual, but there has to be something about the EM2 that's making it better. The same thing here applies to the OTS. So of course, guys, as I said, these are not the outright best guns, but for the most part, they really are. Later on in this video, when I break down the 3rd class, I want to be giving you all the alternatives for the AR and the SMGs, and I'm going to be building a very similar class to this that I think is almost just as good, but built with a little different guns. So now, let's get into class number 2, and that's going to be the Swiss and Cold War AK. Now, there's going to be a lot of alternatives to this class in particular, because I do really feel like there's a lot of alternatives. When it comes down to this Swiss and Kar 98, it really is personal preference in my opinion, but a lot of things have to be factored in. The Kar 98 does technically get better aim assist on console or on PC if you use controller. And the Swiss does have a little slower ADS time, but the Swiss's sight is a little more zoomed in, so it feels like you can see a little better at long ranges. And it has a way better reload time, but I really kind of prefer the Swiss, but both are awesome and worth using no matter what. And as for the sniper support, the main 3 I would focus on would be the Cold War AK, the new LOADOUT SMG, and the FFAR. Now the XM4 and guns like the Milano and PPSH can all be used as a sniper support, but for me, looking at the raw stats, the Cold War AK is easily the best in terms of damage and just how it feels. Now that doesn't mean I outright prefer it to the FFAR, because the FFAR has a slightly higher rate of fire, so if you miss 1 or 2 shots, it's not as punishing as the Cold War AK, and it just feels somewhat better in 0 to 5 meters than the Cold War AK. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but it just has something that makes it feel better, and I think it has to do with like things like the strafe speed and whatnot. But also guys, there's a lot of SMGs that are really good as sniper supports. The Bullfrog, the PPSH, and the CX-9 in particular are all amazing. They all stand out in their mid-range damage, their mobility, and their ability to compete up close, but the CX-9 is really being slept on, and it would just be so meta if it didn't have the mobility issues. And don't sleep on the new Lapa, because in terms of stats and overall feel, that's a top-tier sniper support when you use it with the extended barrel. So now, transitioning to the 3rd spot, we're going to have a very similar class to the first one, and that's going to be the Grau with the Cold War MP5 or the Modern Warfare MP5. So now guys, this is for people who prefer a lower recoil AR compared to the EM2, and they want something a little different than the OTS because they don't have it leveled up, they don't have it unlocked or whatever. So for that, I'd really recommend the Grau, the Farah M4A1, or something like that. In particular, the Grau really stands out for me. It feels really good right now. It just has a really good feel when you're using it at like 30 to 75 meters, and that's what makes it kind of stand out. And in terms of the Cold War MP5, its time to kill is almost on par with the OTS-9, and it feels fantastic. I really enjoy this gun, and I think it's just as good as the OTS-9 in the right hands and if it's a gun you're good with. I'm not saying it's actually as good in terms of raw stats, but for the average player and 90% of the player base, it's not going to really matter whether you choose the Cold War MP5 or the OTS-9. the Modern Warfare MP5 is also plenty viable in the modern meta, and if you want to run an all Modern Warfare class with the Grau Modern Warfare MP5, go for it. It's a great class, you can really slap kids with it, and I'd recommend for anyone to try out this build. Now, similarly to the colder MP5, the LOPA with the compact barrel in particular actually has a faster time to kill than the OTS-9 and the colder MP5 up close, and that is insane. With the right build on that gun, it is a melt, and I'm going to cover that in the last one, but that is also another gun you can insert into any of these classes. So now, moving into the fourth spot, I want to talk about a Ghost or Tempered class, and that's going to be with the colder AK and the Diamatti. So for me, the colder AK is the most optimal gun to use when paired with something like a Diamatti, because it's going to be outright the best AR up close and within 15 to 25 meters. Now, the reason why that's important is because the Diamatti, you can obviously use it between 0 and 10 meters, but when you have it in your back pocket like that, you may have to use your AK at 20, 25 meters because you don't want to use a Diamatti there. You may want to use your MAC 10 on some guy 50 meters away, but you really don't want to use a burst pistol at those ranges. What you would rather do is have something like the colder AK that's good at those ranges and has a competitive time to kill with a lot of SMGs and can hang up close. You can also use the XM4 in this slot because it functions very similarly, where it's really good in the close range, mid range, and in the long range. All of these are good options, but as for the secondaries, I'd really recommend the AMP, the Psychop pistol, or the Diamattis. These are going to give you the biggest use range out of them, but for me, I just personally prefer the Diamattis. I don't know what it is, there's just something about it and the way that it feels. I made a video on it a couple weeks ago if you want to check it out, but I really love that gun. I do really think it's the best secondary. And guys, if you were wondering if you should use Tempered, here's my opinion. Yes, I love that perk. I will run it over Ghost so many times. As an aggressive player, and if you are an aggressive player, Tempered is one of the best perks in the entire game, period. If you are a more conservative player and you don't push people and you aren't fighting a lot of squads very often, then just keep running Ghost. It's going to pay off way more. But if you are an aggressive player, do think about running Tempered. It will change your life, it will change your game, and I'm going to make a video on it very soon. So now, wrapping it up, I want to go into the honorable mentions territory. And this is going to be a list of guns and a class section that is just going to be everything I think is good that I didn't get to mention in this video. So to start it off, I want to talk about the Farah. I think the Farah is really good right now. It doesn't stand out in any particular way in comparison to so many guns, but it just has a certain feel to it. And I think it's one of those guns that if people gave it a try, I think they'd really enjoy it. It's similar to how I feel about the LOPA, but the LOPA is a little different because the LOPA is just not used because it's so new and so many people don't have it leveled up or even unlocked. But if you get that gun unlocked, which unfortunately is bugged right now, it is insane. It destroys kids. Guys, I am not kidding. That gun, in terms of raw stats, is way better than it really should be, and that is the most slept on SMG in the entire game right now, and I will stand by it. Secondly, in terms of LMGs, the MG82 is insane, and even guns like the RPD are really good as well right now. There are actually a bunch of really good meta LMGs that are just being overall slept on. And now moving on to the final category, that's going to be shotguns. Because guys, you could make a class, and this is why I have this fifth class being a kind of honorable mentions territory, because you could make a class with an MG82 and a Jack 12 and an Origin, and you would destroy kids. I'm not kidding. If you ran that class, you would absolutely destroy kids if you knew how to use those guns correctly. If you knew how to control the recoil, if you knew how to get people to play up close and push onto you, and you knew how to get up close to people, I just don't think people really grasp how good it would be overall, is I guess more what I'm trying to say. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a whole bunch of content planned for Vanguard when the new integration happens in a month, and I'm really hoping that this can be a catalyst for massive growth within my channel. But even if it isn't, I just hope it's also the catalyst for a massive growth within Warzone. I want to see more new players on, I want to see more people having fun, and I want to see a lot of people return to it and find that same joy they had a year ago within the new map. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe. If you do, I really appreciate it. Just want to say I hope you have a good day. It's been Ryan. Peace.